Cricket is, at the end of the day, about numbers. And when New Zealand lost to Sri Lanka, had anyone cared to look or tried to place a bet, the odds on a New Zealand 3-0 win would have been around 1,000 to 1 versus India. There is no way New Zealand would have been shorter than 10 to 1 to win a single test. And there were 3 of them. Not to mention that there was rain in Bengaluru as well. The idea that this Kiwi side, without Williamson and Bolt, Taylor and Watling, however far you want to go back, were going to be anything more than food to an Indian team with a world record home streak was absurd. I mean, it wasn't even absurd because no one was thinking it. And then New Zealand won the first test with some help of an odd Bengaluru pitch. And we said that was one of the biggest upsets in modern cricket history. Then they won again in Pune. And we said that was one of the biggest upsets in cricket history. And now they have defended 147 on the third morning of a test. And that is also one of the biggest upsets in modern test cricket history. All 3 at the same time. No matter how you look at this is one of the least likely test results we have ever seen in our sport, and results of any kind. New Zealand beat India, the weather, and their entire history with a team that had their second spinner who was a former keeper. New Zealand beat everything here. And New Zealand had never won a 3-test series 3-0. And this is the time that they choose to do it. The first ever black cap wash, 1,000 to 1, 3-0. Job done. Thanks to MV Play, I was able to make this. Their advanced technology can help any cricket team elevate their skills and performance. All right, let's start with India. 4,331 days. I haven't even looked up the exact number. I think that's right, of how long India did not lose at home. And then they go from that to going up against not even the strongest New Zealand side that they have played at home during that period, and lose not 1 test, not 2 tests, but 3. Like if you said, I don't know, there was some rain around and there was a flat pitch and New Zealand won their series 1-0, I think you could mentally understand that. But to go from 4,000 days of dominance to losing 3-0, like put it this way, even if I told you before the series started that New Zealand would bowl India out for 46, that Mitchell Santner would take a 10-wicket haul, and that Ajaz Patel would take a 10-wicket haul, you still wouldn't think it was likely that New Zealand would win 3-0. And on the back of that, of course, is the 18 series wins in a row. Just a phenomenal effort from India that we have never seen another side do. Now, of course, there are more wins now, and so there are fewer draws, which means there aren't drawn series in the way that West Indies and Australia had to go. But we can all understand that. But to win, not draw, win 18 consecutive test series at home in the history of our game has always been incredibly hard. And for New Zealand, just winning has always been hard in test cricket. And part of that reason is they don't even play that much test cricket. They've only played 94 test series with 3 matches in them. And of recent times, a 3-test series for New Zealand is almost a luxury. It's almost a surprise when they get to play a team who actually wants to play them that many times. And of course, they're also going to Asia. I thought Afghanistan were a good chance of beating New Zealand in that first test had it not rained for an hour on one day and we never saw any cricket after that. I thought New Zealand played okay at times against Sri Lanka and had some chances, but they kept giving them away. Then they were coming to India, where they are bad. We have shown that before. They have always been bad. Of the regular test nations over the last 50, 60, 70 years, they've been the worst when it comes to playing cricket in India. They had 2 wins in India before this series. That means they lapped their entire previous history in India in 1 series. And of course, the stupid numbers just keep going. What about the fact that Ajaz Patel has never taken a wicket in New Zealand and now has all of these wickets away from home? Or what about the fact that in Wankhede, he is one of the world's greatest ever bowlers, and outside of Wankhede, he's just, normal. Mitch Santner, who came into a test series where he wasn't even seen as a genuine first-choice bowler, he had a first-class bowling average of 42, and he then took 13 wickets in a game to win a match against India. And of course, if we're just looking at numbers, how about that 46 all out? Yes, everything fell perfectly into place for New Zealand on that first morning. Tom Latham said he would have batted. Well, thankfully he didn't. And almost every catch was taken and they got some lucky wickets and everything else. But maybe what was more impressive was defending 147, which is the perfect break in snooker. And here you had a situation where probably one partnership was going to be enough to just break this open for India. New Zealand just never let that happen. By the time Sarfaraz Khan came out, he looked like all of India. He was just absolutely had no blood left in his face. He was almost translucent with pain and shock and torment. And how could he not be? Imagine Sarfaraz Khan, the incredibly confident young player, thinking at any stage that he was going to be walking into a test match with India in all sorts of trouble in a relatively easy-looking chase, with his team already 2-0 down trying to stop a black cap wash. No one would have thought that. Certainly not Sarfaraz Khan. And so New Zealand did it again. And I just want to throw one last number at you here, 94. That is the amount of times that New Zealand has played in 3 tests or more in a series. Most of them are 3-test series, but there's a couple of 4 and a couple of 5s in there as well. And yet, at no time in their entire history have they ever won 3-0. I mean, this is not about numbers. This is really more about a moment. And just historically, I want to try and put all this in context. The 1949ers is a side that is famous within New Zealand because it came to England and all it wanted to do was prove that they were too good to play only 3-day matches. And so they went out of their way to draw all the matches. And during the series, they played such good cricket that England actually offered them extra days on the end of their matches. That is a famous team within New Zealand, a team that came to England to draw and then got draws. 1969, when they toured India and then Pakistan, and they had their first ever series win. 39 years into their history, another incredibly famous moment. The 2000 Women's World Cup, the World Test Championship recently, and I don't know, in the last couple of weeks, the New Zealand women won another World Cup. Any of these moments on their own could be seen as the greatest within New Zealand cricket history. But just think about the last month alone. New Zealand win a World Cup, and then they defeat India to stop them on their incredible run. And when that wasn't good enough, they decided to also black cap wash them. This is the greatest month in New Zealand cricket history. New Zealand have never won 3-0 in a test series before. And this time, they decided to do it when their greatest ever batter was out. They had just had their skipper stand down. Their best bowler in the first match got injured. Their best bowler in the second game also got injured. And then to finish it off, they had to defend only 147 against India, in India, on a spinning pitch. And they did it with a wicketkeeper almost taking a hat-trick for them. In 2015, when they had that incredible World Cup, I said that that was their greatest almost. Well, how about this? They just scaled their own personal Mount Everest and also cricket's Mount Everest in one series. And again, to use that same word, but in a very different context. They just scaled cricket's Mount Everest almost accidentally.
I have a book out with Abhishek Mukherjee, and it is called Overthrowing Cricket's Empire. And it's about the stories of how each team beat England for the first time. We go all the way back to the demon Fred Spofforth getting annoyed at W.G. Grace for acting a little bit like Alex Carey. And then we come all the way to present times with Rashid Khan's England's redemption. We cover every single team to beat England in a major international, but we also talk about the incredible stories like the barefoot basher from Fiji that almost played for New Zealand. In fact, this book is full of tales like that. Like how Pakistan lost a top batter after he was on the run from an angry husband of a movie star he was having an affair with. And also how one future captain of his nation realised he might have to go out and bat at Lords and that he didn't own his own pads. Cricket was used as a tool by the Empire, but what happens when those nations grow up and get good at it? Find Overthrowing Cricket's Empire on Amazon today.